Namaste and good morning. Today we will discuss on the topic of trifles from grade 11 compulsory English. One at play. Let's see the topic. Lesson number one from one at play. Trifles by Susan Gaspel. Before going to the lesson, let's see characters. George Henderson. He is country attorney. Henry Peters, sheriff and husband of Mrs. Peters. Lewis Hell, a neighboring farmer of the Wrights. Mrs. Peters, wife of the sheriff. Mrs. Hell, neighbor to the Wrights and wife of Lewis Hell. So before going to the lesson, it's better to know the relation of characters. Who is husband, who is wife, whose role is the main. We should understand the characters. If we understand the characters, then we understand the role, then we understand the play. This is the way of reading or understanding the play. Let's see summary. The play is set in the Wright's abandoned farmhouse. It is a lonesome, gloomy place down in the hollow where the road cannot be seen. The story's motive is to reveal the murderer of John Wright. The character doubts whether the murder must be committed by his wife or someone else. The male characters suspect Mrs. Wright, so they focus to search for evidence in the kitchen. Here, Mr. Wright is killed. So, the plot is to find the murderer here. The play begins with George Henderson, the country attorney, Mr. Peters, and Mr. Hell entering the kitchen of the Wright's farmhouse where the murder took place. They are followed by Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Peters. The women stand by the kitchen door. Mr. Hale explains the events since he had entered the farmhouse the previous day to the sheriff and the attorney. When Mr. Henderson starts his investigation in the kitchen, he finds a jar containing fluid preservative to be broken because of the cold and resulting mess. When Mrs. Peters tells the attorney that Mrs. Wright was worried about her preservative, Mr. Hill says that women are used to worrying over trifles. Hearing the men, Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Hale moves closer to each other. On a couple of occasions, Mrs. Hale is also shown defending Mrs. Wright. She also indicates that Mr. Wright was a rather unwelcoming personality. Mr. Henderson allows Miss Mrs. Hill and Mrs. Peters to gather few belongings for Mrs. Wright before going astray in search of evidence. Mrs. Hill rearranges the kitchen to its tidy condition before the man enters it. She remembers Mrs. Wright as Minnie Foster, who loved to sing before 30 years. She believes that she was sad and unhappy after her marriage. The woman finds the sewing on a quilt to be wrong and want to fix it. They search for the paper and sharing in the cupboard to complete the quilt. Instead, she finds a bird cage. They notice the head of the bird is in the same condition as that of the Mr. Wright. Here, Mr. Wright is killed, and there is a bird which is also killed in the same condition that is described. The women now have a new insight about Mrs. Wright's situations. They speculate that her husband must have killed the bird. It must have been awful for her that after so many years of emptiness, the only but that Shang was also killed in her case, not raised here case. She must have murdered her husband. Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Hill decide to hide the evidence they have found as to Mrs. Wright's motive. Unsurprisingly, the men take no notice, thinking of the item as simply trifles. Some understanding texts are also given here. You may get the answers from the questions in book. It will be very helpful for you. Let's see reference to the text also given. So better to understand the topic, better to read the summaries, better to read original text. If that is difficult for you, then you can only take help of summary and these question answers. Finally, please like, share, and subscribe the channel. Everybody, thank you for watching this video. Thank you.